Hey, welcome. In today's video we will repot the Ponderosa pine with the feminine design that I discussed last week. We will use a custom pot that I created that you may have seen in Instagram. The first thing that I want to discuss is the substrate. And what substrate you use depends on the species, depends on where you are located, your local climate, and also what you have available where you live. Modern substrates don't contain any organic matter in them, or very little, and in order to discuss the components, it's better to start by discussing what is the role of the substrate. In a bonsai pot, the effect of gravity, what we call the gravity column, is very small. And so if you use garden soil, it will stay too wet too long. Roots need oxygen as well as water in a proper balance. And depending on the species, this balance is more towards the water, more towards the oxygen. But unless you live in almost desert conditions where you would lose water too fast to evaporation, the amount of organic is kept to a minimum, and what you use is modern substrates, aggregate materials. Now, in Japan, people use akadama, and in the West as well, but also the quality of akadama varies considerably, and some of it may be too soft and not resistant to freeze thaw cycles. If your akadama breaks down too quickly, you will prevent the entrance of oxygen into the pot. And so here in Montreal, I use something else other than akadama, which is called Bonsai. It's a product mined in France and imported by the Société de Bonsai et Painting de Montréal, SBPM, which I'm a member of. And it has the properties of akadama, but it's fairly stronger. It is porous, it absorbs water, it allows oxygen between the particles, it has a good granule size, and all of this is to allow the root system to have water available when it needs, and oxygen as well. The second component is lava rock, and what I use is something from a company called Lava Grip. It's mined in British Columbia. And the third component that I use is diatomaceous earth, which is bought here in Canada for absorbing oil in garages, in shops. Now the problem with the DE is that it's a smaller granule size. We'll speak about granule size in a moment. The requirements for a bonsai soil are that they absorb water, they retain water, but they also create enough micro air pockets in between to allow the oxygen to percolate as the water passes through. And it has at least one of the components, if not all of them, have a large CEC value, cationic exchange capacity, which is to say that the particles of the substrate have charges in them, and those charges allow them to bind the charged particles of the nitrogen compounds, the phosphorus compounds, the potassium compounds and the micronutrient ions as well when you fertilize, so they are held in place when the plant and the mycorrhiza needs them. If you have, for example, decomposed granite on its own, that has almost zero CEC, so all the fertilizer that go through, if it's not used at the moment, the next time that you water or the time after, it's washed out. Another thing that is important about the substrates that you use is the pH, better a neutral pH or slightly acidic, but in my case all the substrates that I use have neutral pH. And the last thing is about the granule size, and that varies according to the size of the tree and the species, because you want to retain more or less water. Also, it depends on your conditions. For a pot, for a pine, I will use 1-1-1. For a large pine, on a standard pot, I would remove the 1/16 fraction, which I will not today because it's a non-standard pot and it's not such a large pine, but I will show you what I mean. This is a sieve, and this is the smallest sieve size that I have, which is approximately 1/16. And the first thing that I will do is remove everything that is dust from all of them. So I have 3 equal parts here, and I'm removing everything that is smaller than 1/16. I will not bother you with watching me sieve all of this. So this is what's left on the 1/16. Here we have particles that are bigger than 1/16 up to whatever size they may come. Everything smaller than 1/16 is here, and it will be discarded or used in the garden. For an extremely tiny mame, one of those that come in pots like this, you could use this, of course, and you should use this. Now, just as an example, now a little bit of this one here, and at the end I will show you the result, but I don't want to do the entire sifting in front of you. In this one here you can see there are bigger particles as well. So now I will mix everything, and I'll have a 1-1-1 with everything that is higher than 1/16. So I have finished sifting the substrate. These are the fines that I will discard or save for using in ultra fine mame. And this is the substrate that I will use. It's mixed. As I mentioned, if this was a traditional pot with only a few drainage holes at the bottom, I would use an aeration layer, which would be using the biggest size of my sieve to sift a little bit of this, and whatever is left on top, not what passes, is what I would use for one layer. In this pot, because it's such a non-traditional pot with sufficiently more aeration than not, I will not use a drainage layer. There will be enough entrances for air and lack of capillary action to retain water that this is not necessary. Now I need to prepare the pot. The way that I will prepare this pot will be covering with the drainage net the entire bottom, and wherever I cannot use that, I will use a sphagnum moss, long fiber sphagnum moss, to make a sphagnum wall, as I did in many other pots with lateral aeration or rock plantings or slab plantings. So you can check those out in the library, but I will show you the process. So now I will attach the net to the bottom of the pot, and we'll come back to continue. Now that the substrate is ready, the pot is ready, and on the sides we will use sphagnum moss walls on all the other openings. You will notice that I did not put attachment tie down wires on the pot. I will do this once I'm sure about the planting angle, the position, the actual state of the roots. Then I will get into a strategy. Before I start, I will prepare all the tools I need. I have blocks, wooden blocks, to hold the tree on the side once I inspected the roots, while I prepare the pot adapted to the roots. I have my bamboo chopstick, which is the only tool that I use to work on the roots. This will not be necessary here, but I have the kuma, and I have two, the one with the rough edge, and somewhere around here I have one that is also for with smooth edge. I'll find here. This one is with a smooth edge. This is actually not a bonsai tool. This is a tool for carpet, but it's very sharp and it can be easily sharpened further still. So with the kuma, we don't do like this, we just go around. I'm not sure I will see how the roots are here. Once I work the roots, I will decide on the tie down strategy, and I will do so. I may need to drill screws to prepare the tie down. For the tie down, we may need props made of bamboo. So I have pieces of bamboo to cut. If we need another piece of wood, I have wood on the side here to cut to size. In terms of tools, additional tools, the extra large root cutter, and now we will start. So I'll put my 17 gauge galvanized electrical fence steel wire on the side. It's important that it is electrical fence if you use galvanized steel wire. I used in the past 17 gauge galvanized steel wire that was not for electrical fence, and that rotted out. So far, once I moved to electrical fencing galvanized steel wire, and that was last year, the ones that were done last year are still holding well. So we will see, but this is what I will use. I will put it here on the side, and now I will start dealing with the roots. The first thing I will do is I will remove this net, and I will use something rougher than this. I will remove this net that I used in the past to hold the pumice in place while I can allowing me to keep the tree at a weird angle. This is a netting for drywall. It will not rot. It has an adhesive, but the adhesive falls out, is lost with time, with watering. So this could even be possibly used instead of a drainage net inside pots. The best is to hold the tree from a place that doesn't have, that you will not damage the bark, especially a pine. Sometimes it's easier with two people, but in this case I don't have. I will slightly put it sideways. Okay. So to minimally disturb the roots, I will actually cut this away if I can. When I use the box cutter to cut a plastic pot, I use a minimum amount here to make sure that I don't cause any extra damage to the roots. So now very gently I will slide the tree off. I'm holding from okay. So the tree is out of the pot. When repotting a tree, if you follow the Mirai methodology, you never bare root. You always leave a section untouched. So here I will not touch most of it. Here I'm reaching some roots now. That's a limitation here. So one wire here will represent a pair of wires here, another pair of wires here, and another here. I will put the tree on this floor for a moment while I prepare the pot, and I will use a water bottle to humidify the roots a little bit. Excuse myself that I'm in front of the camera. There are no horizontal lines, no vertical lines. I'm hiding that straight section. Now I need to find a way to attach and hold the tree in place. Now I'll start putting the screws where I feel they should go. So I have one screw here, another one here, and a third one right here. This wire is in the right place. This one is in the right place. I could attach it already, but this one here has to come through the root system. So we will use a wire harpoon technique here, and so I have to lift the tree up. The harpoon here, we will come with a larger size and go around and sort of like this, and we can now cut cut that, and that's done. So now I can come with the tree. I can start attaching it. And again, holding from the Deadwood. Now these wires, I will take them out of the way for now. And this one here goes right through the root system. The best effective application is the straight most application of wire. So right now we're right there. This can be attached already. The second wire is right here. We can attach it already. And the third one is right here, and we can just move some of these roots away and attach it. Perfect. So one prop there. Now let me check that the angle is right. Yeah, I like it. So the first force that the direction of force right now is with the tree going forward. So the best thing for me is to attach the wire at the bottom, at the end here, to hold the tree in place. This is not the final point. I can still tie it further, tighter and stronger. This is just so that I can work out the right positions. I'll look at it from a little bit of a distance. Make sure also when you repot that not only you get the front right, but also the inclination, that the tree is not too forward too much. Here I think it's okay. It goes like this and like that. My space here is limited and I am a bit cramped here. I'll finish tying the tree down. It's important to get all the slack out of the wire. Now this one here, this is the one that had the harpoon, so now I can cut the harpoon away and tie the tree. When it gets a little difficult to tie the wire, you can cut it a little shorter and bend it. That creates a little bit of a curve that allows the pliers to hold on to. Now that it's done, I will tie a little further. One, two, and three. Now start the fun part, which is to put the sphagnum wall and finishing the planting. I'll start creating walls. So we go by layers. Here is the first area that we need to put sphagnum moss. First we'll bring a little bit of substrate. So I will show only the first step, and then I will cut to this is actually an interesting situation here. Imagine that this was, let me show you, actually this is pretty nice. Imagine that this was a normal pot without any of this craziness, and you actually left air spaces in here. This is where this kind of bamboo chopstick that has a directional side comes handy. I stick it in, and as I move it up, substrate goes in. Okay, and it starts filling that area. Now the substrate on the top is starting to fall. Now I'll put my sphagnum wall, which means to insert it and create a barrier for the substrate not to be able to come out. And this is allowing the roots to get aerated, air pruned. Moss will grow in here. So this is the first wall. I'll keep adding substrate there. Because we have the lateral aeration, before we close it, we actually have an incredible access to the underside, the sheen, what will be the future sheen of the tree. Sheen is a Japanese term for core, and it's a very important part of the root system once it gets established. But because we have this access, we can really tuck substrate in areas that it's important to not have air spaces. This is the final result. The front is approximately as you see it. You should be able to see this dead root framed by this and this movement here, somewhere around here. We have a very large base, almost grotesque. I may cover it a little bit in the future, but for now I'll leave it, which is not facing the front, but it's slightly at an angle. So this is the angle, about 30 degrees from the front. All of this up to here was covered. Like this, it was covered. There is a little bit of bark that fell, so I glued it, but it's not sticking because it's wet. I'll glue it again after. All of this up to here was hidden, so I was lucky to have this actual root flare here and not simply coming like this, which was what I thought I had. The soil line was about here. So I'm pretty happy with the result. As you can see, I have the sphagnum walls for extra aeration, and I will plant living moss on all of those. On the top I have top dressing, which is 50% grated moss with 50% grated live moss. So this will with time germinate. It's a leftover from 2 years ago actually. The design for the future will be to bring this branch down here. This branch here will come down somewhere here, This is perhaps the most difficult branch to bend. Well, we'll see how it goes. But the idea is to bring it here, if not to kill the top and just use this part here. And the apex will be built with this branch here coming here. As a final step in this work, I am removing the bark from the dead branches to create gin. And because these branches are dead for a long time, in many places the bark is very strongly attached. Wherever I can, I use the small chisel. In other places, I'm using the foredom tool with the double cut carbide burr. This allows me to grind away the attached bark without leaving any tool marks. In some places, once I move the tool in, it then this detaches the bark and I can finish it with my hand. But in general, this is a fantastic tool because with the strong torque and low speed, it doesn't leave any marks on the branch. The deadwood in here is much younger than what you find in the old gins in the tree. So come spring, I will protect the old gins with lime sulfur, whereas I will leave the new ones to continue aging. So for now, I just painted them with Sumi ink mixed with white gouache to give them a gray appearance, but this is not protecting them from decay in the elements. It's just adding a little bit of an aesthetic touch. And once I'm happy with their appearance, then I will treat them with lime sulfur. But if I were to treat them with lime sulfur now, I would just be protecting young deadwood. This is the final result now as the tree stands, and I'm giving you a 360 here. The back is also a potential front still, so I'm not entirely decided. I hope this video was instructive and it helps you on your own repots in this new season. For now, I wish you to stay safe, to be kind, and until the next one, bye bye for now.